Welcome back to Rouse Rising. We are in a pantry challenge, so we're making up lots of pancakes and serving them up with a lot of jam. Stay tuned. I'm going to share with you a day of pantry challenge meals. And about every other day, we bake a loaf of bread. And today I used half fresh milled hard red wheat berries and half all-purpose flour. And this is our beautiful loaf. I haven't buttered the top or anything. I just pulled it out of my loaf pan from my bread machine and wanted to share with you guys. And my daily loaf of bread recipe is 1 2/3 cups of water, 4 cups of flour, about 1/4 cup oats, 4 tablespoons of fat. I like to use olive oil. You can use butter. Then we're gonna do 4 tablespoons of sugar. We're gonna do 2 teaspoons of salt. And then on top of all of that, we're gonna do 2 teaspoons of your active dry yeast, or 2 teaspoons of your bread machine, fast acting bread machine type yeast. And that's gonna give you a beautiful loaf of bread. I think I remembered all the ingredients. I don't think I forgot anything. You can also add a couple tablespoons of powdered milk or use some milk in your recipe. I try to make my bread dairy free. So, but sometimes when I'm not going to be having any bread, I'll add butter to it or milk to it for the kids, and that makes a little bit of a softer loaf. But this is a delicious sandwich loaf of bread, and it has a lovely crumb. The kids are having delicious frozen blueberries because that's what we have, is frozen fruit. Thankfully, we stocked up. I mean, we didn't purposely stock up. We just always have an abundance of frozen fruit in our freezers. So back in end of October, beginning of November, I bought a couple bags of frozen blueberries and some frozen mixed fruits. So that is what we were having during the pantry challenge. And we can also cook these up and make like a blueberry syrupy yummy goodness. We just cook them on the stove for a few minutes with some sugar and some lemon juice, and we can put that on top of our waffles. But we also have tons of jams and jellies too that we're using on our waffles, so we're trying to work through that stuff as well. So we're just eating the blueberries on yogurt, or we're just eating the blueberries plain or mixed in with yogurt. It just depends. Right now they had a yogurt drink this morning, so now they're having just plain blueberries for a snack before lunch. Well, it's time I grow up and start to get some matching furniture in my home. So for this video, I partnered with Lubana to get these Darrell hidden storage side tables. And I think that they look really great with our master bedroom. And right here on the back, I just want to show you what's back here. It's really cool. I don't know if you have things that you need to hide, but if you do, this is the place you want to do it. Tucked back here is this little flip down door, and it leads to a little opening that you can place some items. Right now we've got printer ink cartridges back there right now, so those are going to stay back there. And then in the front you also have a drawer that has a real nice little black pull knob on it, and I love the modern sleek design of these bedside tables. I got 2 to go in my master bedroom, and you can find them linked down below in this video's description. I've got many places in my house where I store food, and one of them is in this end cabinet that's kind of on this work space area in my extended kitchen in the pantry / utility room, because it is my pantry. I also have shelves and shelves and shelves. So what I'm doing right now is I'm putting all my tomato products over here on this shelf, and I am working to take inventory of what exactly is in this cabinet. It's random stuff. So I used to keep all tomatoes and pastas in here, and I have most of my pastas in a bucket, and then these are the pastas that I need to cook through. So we've got all these lasagnas and different noodles in here that we need to cook through, in a random box of organic shells and cheese. So also on this shelf, green beans, potatoes, annies. These are things that we just don't ever eat. Canned fruits and vegetables. And this is a random hodgepodge because I have a whole nother cabinet that has more items in it. The lighting's kind of hard to see, but I have a sloppy Joe mix, more potatoes, cheesy ravioli, or the Annie's kind of cheesy ravioli. So I've got just random things that I bought years ago. And this is let's see. Oh, best flavor by 22nd December 2020. So these probably aren't good anymore. I don't know. I should open them up and check, but they're 5 years-ish past their expiration. So that's why it's good to go through all this stuff. I don't even know where I got those. I might have bought those at Grocery Outlet. We also have down here on this bottom shelf, these are some spices and things that I've added recently in the last year. So we've got a ranch dressing, and then some different chilies and taco mixes that you can get. You can get like the larger portions, so you're not having to buy the little seasoning packets, and this saves money because you get a whole big chunk of it. Of course, you can buy these ingredients in bulk, and you can make your own taco seasoning and that sort of thing. And I've done that before, but it's just this season of life, it's just been easier to kind of easy stock those items when they're on sale at the grocery store. Emergency food stores and, you know, camping trips, that kind of thing. You just throw this in there, probably throw the taco meat in there. It's more versatile, or the taco seasoning. I've got some gluten-free pastas from when I was gluten-free, but I was finding that gluten-free, for some reason, those types of foods were flaring up my pancreas. Or knock on wood, I haven't in the last month had major pain, I'll say. You know, there's a scale. Okay, so I also had a whole bunch of tomato products that I had stocked up for emergency food stores over the years, and I'm trying to work through these. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to cook up some bones and make some beef bone broth, and we are going to make a stew soup. And we're also going to use some steaks and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and get that going. But first I've got to make lunch, and that's why I started messing around in my pantry cabinets anyways, because I was looking for some type of canned meat to make a sandwich for the kids. So today we're going to have salmon salad sandwiches. I think I have some mayonnaise floating around. So I'm going to find the mayonnaise. Here's the salmon. And then this is what we have going on in this little pantry. This is the cabinet that's directly in my kitchen. And I keep some canned items in here, and then I have one more little cabinet where I keep a little bit more canned items. I also keep all the kids, some of their dishes, water bottles, cups, things like that they have easy access to, so that they can get themselves what they need. Right here we have a row of soups, and these are 3, 6, 9 deep. This is all a variety of tomatoes. I've got some miso I bought at the store recently, and we love miso soup. Cook that up with some hot water. We've got pumpkin way back there that we need to use in a pumpkin bread or something. And then I have a little bit of fruit. We got pineapple way back there, peaches, yams, and just a little bit. We've got a whole lot of freeze-dried bananas, but this is what the kids snack on, so those are easy reach for them. Down here we've got our different condensed coconut milks. I also have some more coconut milk in a different cabinet, but I have one right there for some reason. And then I have sweetened condensed milks, and then that goes back into beets and pickled Brussels sprouts, some pickled stuff. We've got cut green beans. This is all green beans and applesauce, albacore tuna. We've got about 6 cans left in that tuna. We've got some Bush's baked beans. We've got, remember, this is all of my like emergency food stores. So we've got Spam. My kids, I don't think have ever had Spam, but we've got Spam. And maybe if you have any suggestions of what we can cook with Spam, maybe we'll cook some Spam up during this pantry challenge. But the goal really is to use up a bunch of freezer meat and to save a lot of this meat that's in here. We only have 1 can of chicken breast left. We've got a thing of roast beef down there. We've got sardines, really good sardines. We've got chipped beef to make chipped beef gravy. More sardines back there, some capers, just random ingredients. And then down here we've got some other random ingredients. I think I'm gonna move all of my vinegars, honeys, and olive oils and things over here into this cabinet with all of these items, since I have room down there. And I'll probably move out some of the pantry things that go up in my top pantry up here, which is like all my baking, some of my baking stuff, and random Relight and chocolate chips and random things that we have in here. It really is quite a hodgepodge of random baking stuff. You know how those baking cabinets get. I did just clean this cabinet out, although it doesn't really look like it. I did just clean it out. We've got some raisins, some more raisins, some various sugars, some soup bean mix spices. So we're working through the pantry stores. I know a lot of you have expressed concerns about dwindling down our pantry supplies, but we're saving up all of our grocery money to do a major restock once we get through the pantry challenge and our life is back on track. We've got some mayonnaise here, some store-bought mayonnaise. This was in the pantry, and we're gonna start using that up, use through that. This looks really kind of gross. This is the canned salmon. That's what it looks like when it comes out. We mash the bones and everything into it. We mash everything up. The bones are really easy to eat. They just kind of crumble up. We season it with some lemon pepper, some salt, pepper, lemon pepper seasoning, and some mayonnaise, and then we're gonna put it on some fresh homemade bread. And because celery tastes good with anything, I'm gonna chop up some freeze-dried celery and throw that in there as well. All right, I've got the celery and everything in there. We're just gonna mash and mix all this up and cut up the bread and put it on there. Looks really appetizing. All right, it might not look amazing, but it tastes amazing. All right, this is salad and sandwich for lunch. Here you go, son. All right, next we fed the kids lunch, so I'm gonna get started on dinner. This is elk sirloin tip. So what I'm gonna do is stew these in some onions and tomatoes, and then I'm gonna make a soup. And while this stews in the oven on low heat, I'm gonna look it up on the internet. I'm gonna ask Google because I don't know what I'm doing. To stew this, what temperature. I'm gonna start my oven out at 300, and then I'm gonna adjust it to whatever the internet tells me to do after I'm done with this video, or when I'm done recording this part. These are the soup bones. I don't have any yellow onions or anything to roast with these, but I am gonna roast these in the oven for a little bit, get them browning some, and then we will add those to a stock pot with some carrots that we have, some freeze-dried celery, some freeze-dried onions, and we're gonna make a soup. And then we're gonna shred up all of the meat that we stew, and we're gonna add it to the soup. It's gonna be called a stoop. We've got our elk steaks right here, and I'm just gonna throw some of these onions on top. Then we're gonna pour the tomatoes on top. I'm also gonna season them, throw some pepper on there, that kind of stuff. All right, you can put an immersion blender in the can and bust these tomatoes up a little bit. I'm just gonna throw them on top and then cut them down a little bit. And everything's gonna stew together nicely in this pan. Okay, maybe you have some suggestions. Maybe I need to put some better than bouillon in here. I'm not exactly sure, but I started out with just some red onions, some stewed tomatoes. I threw some ghee in there because if you know, elk is a really lean meat, and the ghee doesn't have any milk proteins in it, so the milk proteins have been skimmed off, so it's not gonna curdle in here. It's just the fat from the butter, just the fat. It's clarified butter. So we threw that in there as well, and it's gonna go in the oven just like this. This broth is gonna be real simple because I just don't have any fresh produce really to add to it. But I have a special ingredient that I'm gonna be adding to this broth, and it's already been roasted. The vegetables have already been taken care of. This is gonna go in the oven for about 20 minutes or so. I got it on 425. And we're just gonna roast these up till they get some brown crispy bits on them. These are the marrow bones. So inside of here, this is amazing marrow. It's so good with salt and pepper on toast after this roasts. Or you can emulsify it into your broth. It's basically just delicious, amazing fat or marrow. It's so good. But this is beef marrow bones, and these are soup bones that I got from somebody from a local farm where we do our Azure drop off. She's got all sorts of pork and cow, or pig and cow, and you know, all the good meat, sheep, lamb, all that good stuff. So that's where we get some of our meat. This is meat that I got last year when we didn't get or have very much access to elk meat. This year we do have access to elk meat, so we've got elk meat to enjoy, but that might change in the near future. And the last thing that I added was just, I strategically placed some, not really, I just threw some garlic around the edges of this just to cook in there with it, roast in. We need some immune boosting around here. We've stayed relatively healthy this year. I want to keep it that way. While I haven't given you a freezer tour, and I know this shelf doesn't look like a whole lot, but I've been doing some organizing, and this at one point was filled with all home canned goods, but now we've started adding in some freeze-dried items, some store-bought items as we've made room, and I've moved my canned goods up. I've made room to put other items on these lower shelves. So we are doing pretty well. I do want to get through as much glass stuff as possible. And then I started thinking, what if I can all the meat in the freezers and get the meat out of the freezers and into jars? And then I'm thinking, well, how well are the jars going to move? Are they going to stay sealed? All that sort of thing. So we don't know what's happening with our life right now. We're just planning for the unknown. And part of that is using through our pantry store. So some of you asked if we are moving, and well, we don't know either here nor there what's happening tomorrow. So that's my announcement for that. And when I know, you'll know. Trust me, you'll know when I know. I don't know. So I've alluded to the fact that things might be changing here in the future, and that is possible, but I don't know. Right now, we thought we would have known by now, but we don't know. So there you go. All right, what is going on with this jar? This jar right here looks interesting. It looks like no, that was just a reflection. That was a funny reflection. It looked like the jar was cracked, but it wasn't. It was just the way the light was reflecting off of this jar onto that. Okay, so we still have these canned items on these shelves to work through that you see here. They do go back 3 deep, whether it's quarts or pints. They go back 3 deep. So that is how much food that we have to work through here. I thought it was fair to share that. In these boxes up here are freeze-dried items. In these are grains and pastas. Up here we have animal crackers that we don't ever eat. Then we have more freeze-dried food, more food in jars, dry foods in jars. So we do have things like freeze-dried foods and pastas and grains and things like that in all of these boxes. So there's those pantry stores as well. All right, now that the house is burning down and everything's nice and smoky, here we've got our Staub Coquette that we're going to be cooking these in, and as you can see, they are nicely browned. You can scoop that marrow out and enjoy it on some toast, but we're just going to let it cook up in this delicious soup so everybody can have some of it and really enjoy this flavorful soup. And then once these cook for a while in here, we'll pull some of that meat off the bones. We're going to make sure all of that marrow comes off of there. I need 2 hands, forgive me for a minute. We're gonna get this going with some water in here. We're gonna add some more water, but this is what I had left over in my kettle from making myself an afternoon cup of joe. Cup of half calf. I'm on the half calf train these days. So we're gonna get our burner going. There we go. Got some fire on it. Medium low for now, medium. I'm gonna add some more water to that and add some of the freeze-dried vegetables. And my secret ingredient is gonna be these vegetable bouillon cubes that we made a few months ago. I will put the recipe down below in this video's description, but just a bunch of really thick vegetable blended up soup, and then I freeze-dried it in these little cubes, and now we've got some bouillon. So we're gonna add probably 12, like half of what's in here. I changed my setup. I decided to cover it with foil and put it on a baking sheet. And of course, the internet recommended 300 degrees, anywhere from 275 to 325. So we're gonna do 300. All right, this is what the elk stew stuff is looking like. I had some foil on it to keep all the heat in. I'm just gonna let that stew down for a little bit longer with the foil off for about a half hour or so. And then I added more water to this because it's been simmering all day and it simmered down pretty low. Simmer down. And we're gonna combine the two, and then we're gonna add in my favorite soup mix because it has okra in it, and I love okra in my soup. And it also has lima beans and some different things in it. And then we'll also add a little bit of mixed vegetables, and then we'll be adding this bouillon, and then we'll season it up with some herbs de Provence and some salt and pepper. And it'll be tasty. We might add in some better than bouillon too. And we're gonna take some of this down to my friend who just had a baby, and she's gonna eat on it. And that's what we do around here. Us mamas, we make each other a big old pot of, or a big old jar of stew soup with whatever game meat or farmed meat, local meat we have. and nourish each other. All right, I got a couple things going on here. I've pulled out the marrow bones and the meat, and I'm gonna work on chopping up the meat once that cools off a little bit. And then to my stock pot, or my pot of broth, bone broth, we added some herbes de Provence, and we're just gonna let that cook. And then I'm gonna cut up some potatoes and some carrots, and we're gonna add those in at the same, well, we're probably gonna add those in a little bit before we add these mixed vegetables. All right, we're adding some carrots to our soup, our stew soup. I need to get my tripod out. Forgive me, you guys. You guys have been great this whole video. Yes. All right, there we go, carrots. Now we're gonna chop up potatoes. Okay, so far we've got our carrots and our potatoes going. All right, we're gonna turn up this heat, and we're gonna add all of our frozen vegetables. So here we go in with our frozen veggies. That's our vegetable soup mix. And then we're also just gonna add in some regular mixed veggies to this as well. There we go. Of course, I'm always seasoning my food up with some Redmond's real salt. Go in with that. I'm gonna add the tomatoes and the meat and everything back in there. We'll give it a taste and see where it's at. But I'm gonna start transferring some of this broth over here to this soup. And that's gonna add so much flavor. This is elk broth, elk, onion, tomato, and garlic broth. It's gonna be so delicious in this soup. Now, if you like to, you can add a can of diced tomatoes or something like that to your soup. My kids typically don't like the chunks of tomatoes in soup. Next, I'm just gonna work on working through this meat, cutting it up into little pieces. It's nice and tender. And then these are gonna continue to cook down in the soup. And this is just a lovely ribeye. And we don't really like to eat steaks and things like that around here, but we do like to cook it up, stew it up, and add it to soups and stews. And this is just really delicious meat. It's so good. All right, so you can do the immersion blender, or I ran it through a fine mesh sieve because I wanted to remove all the seeds and all of the skins. This is what the soup looks like, and this is slap your mama in the face. It's so delicious. Soup, stew, tomorrow, right now it's boiling hot, so it's very liquidy, but tomorrow it will be much thicker. The second day soup is the best because that's when it thickens up real nicely and it just becomes so full of flavor. Thank you so much for joining me today to make this delicious soup. We've been cooking on it for the last 4 hours. My kids just got home from an outing with their dad, so I'm gonna serve them up, and I'm gonna put a whole bunch of it in a jar and take it to my friend. All right, y'all have a good night.